Okay, guys, everybody, welcome to a very special episode of the Love First podcast. It's your boy Kadadon.
And it's your boy Wraith.
We have a very, very special guest in the Love First podcast with us today. We have Zoe, the Super A&R VP at Epic Records. Amazing. Shout out to Zoe.
Hey, how are you guys?
Zoe.
Awesome. It's such a blessing to have you on here. Someone with so much wisdom as yourself and that has been successful in the industry. So it's not just getting advice and tips for someone saying, hey, if you do this, this will most likely work. But you're someone that has done it. This has been proven to work, so that's amazing. I know you're usually in California. Where are you at currently?
Yeah, I'm actually in Los Angeles right now. I just got back last night.
Oh, okay.
I was in Miami.
That's a flight.
LA. We got to come up to LA soon.
Yeah, it was great. I had DDG and Sunna Girl and Bia all working at Circle House, and I flew out a bunch of producers like OG Parker and Jazzy and Derek Milano. So I had a lot of really great people working, and Miami is home to like amazing writers and producers like Ben Billions and Lunch Money. So I kind of like brought my artists from here to Miami because it's it's open. We could get in the studio. And we just cooked up. Everybody cooked up every night for like 10 days in a row. So it was awesome.
That sounds
nice. That sounds beautiful. Wonderful.
Like every night, calling me. They're like, hey, there's too many people. It's quarantine. I'm like, man, let's just go. I'm like, please put your mask on, guys.
Yeah, put your mask on. Let's do it.
Put your mask on. Let's get it.
Definitely. So for the people that might not be aware, kind of let us know a little bit about your background and how you got into the music industry.
Well, right now, I'm vice president of A&R at Epic Records. I've been at Epic for maybe like the last 5 years, but I've been working in the music industry for over the last 13 years. And my whole background is music. When I was really young as a kid, my dad worked with Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers, and my stepmom was actually a part of that group. So anytime I wanted to see my dad, I would have to travel and like go on tour, go on road, I would like rehearsals, all kinds of stuff. Like at the time, Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers, they had like a Grammy-winning album, and they were just on the road. So whenever I wanted to see my dad and my stepmom, I had to go on the road. So I always knew I was going to be in music. Mm-hmm. I just didn't know what kind of music. Like I knew it wasn't going to be reggae music, but really that's my foundation. I've always been on tour, always been on the road, always been in the studio, always been in rehearsals. So, I knew it was for me. I just didn't know how I was going to get into it or how it unfold, but I knew that it would.
Definitely. How did you actually like that, the traveling at like such a young age? Because I know you do a lot of traveling now, but how about back then?
It was great. It was super great. Like, tour buses are like a lot of fun. Concerts are a lot of fun. Studios a lot of fun. And like, I'm Jamaican, so I love reggae music. And, Ziggy Marley and Melody Makers is like my favorite. I literally know every song, every album, everything. That's literally what I grew up on. So whenever my dad would call, we just knew it was go time. We knew we were going to pack our bags. We were going to get on the bus. We were going to fly somewhere. It was going to be a lot of room service, and it's going to be great. So
awesome. That sounds like a fantastic experience.
I was like, how can I need one of these jobs. I didn't know which one. There was the guy, he was there, one of the managers at the time, and I was just literally, I remember I would just follow him around. I just see him doing this and checking on this and checking on that. And out of most of the kids, like I was one of the older ones, so I was really just like, I was really like, yo, I need to be doing this. This is too cool.
That's super dope, for real. So that actually makes sense to inspire you into the music world, and you actually having a background in music, like people that are doing it on a professional level. So you get to see that from an early age. So I think everyone's familiar with the word A&R, right? Everyone knows that an A&R is a very important person at a record label. They make things happen. They're good, right? But people don't usually know the specific role of an A&R. Can you kind of just break that down for the listeners?
Well, there's so many different roles. I didn't hear you, babe. Say that again. What did you say? I didn't hear you.
No, he said he definitely
No, I said I want to know. I want to know.
Well, for me, it's like stages and phases, like most people say like, okay, A&R, like your talent's out, you go find talent. For me, once I find something that's really great, I bring it back to my boss, Sylvia Rohn, who's like the #1 woman in music, Black woman in music. And, pretty much the final decision is up to her. So it's up to me to be passionate about something and sell it to her. So, she decides that she wants to spend the money and sign what I believe in. So once you find something really great, you know, they have different A&Rs, and different A&Rs are good at different things. Some A&Rs are only good at finding talent. Some A&Rs are only good at being in the studio. Some A&Rs are only good at getting features, you know, so everybody's good at different things. Me, I kind of feel like I'm good at a few different things. So, you know, I go through phases. Like sometimes I have times where like, I'm just looking for new artists. I'm just like scouring, I'm going to concerts, I'm online, like, you know, the roster might be low, we're just looking for something new. But what happens is when you find something, this is the part people confuse about A&R. Once you find something, you have to, it's almost like a commitment. It's like a marriage. It's like, all right, I want to sign you. So guess when I sign you, I'm your A&R now. So now I'm responsible for you. So now I have to make sure you have a great album. I have to make sure your budget is good. I have to get you in the studio. I have to help you find a hit record. And I basically have to come back to the company and say, hey, I told you guys to spend $1 million on this kid. He was great. You know what I mean? It's going to go. So I have to follow it through and make sure it happens. And then, you know, like a lot of times people don't even know. Most people that get signed, they'll record and like it just never comes out. Like there's so many people that are signed and the music never comes out. Right. And not everybody at the label has an A&R. So for me, you know, I prefer to only work on things that like I signed myself. But if it's something really great and they want me to work on it, you know, or help out, I'll jump on it too. But there are different phases. So once you find something, you have to deliver it. And the delivery process, you know, it goes from a creative perspective to where you have to find artists, you have to have sessions, you find producers, you know, you figure out like, what's the vision of the art? Like, I feel like my job is whatever your vision is to make it bigger and to make it actually happen. So, you know, it's a lot of work. And then even once you get past the creative process, there's still so much more admin work. Like people think like, oh, you just go in the studio and you hang out and like, we'll turn the songs in. Like the turning in song process is like, it's a real process. Like we have to go to sample clearance. We have to do splits. We have to write the credits. We have to get the lyrics. We have to make sure it's paid. We have to have a budget. Can't go over budget. So, you know, even when you meet an artist at first and you get the budget and then they're signed, like there's so many numbers to crunch. Like, you know, with this budget, we're going to be able to do this many sessions. We're going to be able to afford this many songs at this price. So there's a lot of math to it too. There's a lot of like paperwork. There's a lot of scheduling, you know, so people, they don't usually see that part. But, and then also like another phase of A&R is planning. So before you even get into the studio, like these sessions that I had these last 10 days with these 3 artists, I've been planning this for like literally before the quarantine. It took me like a month. So like strategically planning like, okay, I want you to work with this producer on this writer. So, and then on Monday, and then on Tuesday, I want you to work with these people. And on Wednesday, I want you to work with these people. So it's like trying to pair people together and schedule them. And then everybody's on a different schedule. Everybody's doing a million different things. So the scheduling part is like kind of crazy too, to try to get the right people. Like, cause you know, a lot of the new artists, they don't know and they don't have relationships. Like, you know, a lot of times people want beats from certain people, but your budget might not be for a Take Heath beat. It might not be in your range. You might need a $5,000 beat, not a $15,000 beat, or you might need a $1,500 beat or a $5,000 beat. But, you know, if you have an A&R that has a great relationships, they'll use their relationships to help you. So like anybody that I know with, like a lot of the writers I work with, you know, they mostly like work with A-list artists. But if I have a new artist and I'm like, hey, you know, this is my new artist, can you work with them? I always hook you up with these other great people. You know, I need you to do something for me. So it's almost like a barter system when you have, you know, older artists and then you have newer artists, and then, you know, you can kind of blend and play with it to see like what you can get. But that's the thing about an A&R is you don't want to sign something you don't love, because you have to use your personal relationships and your personal favors to really push through. You know what I mean? Especially if you want to like make it economical. Like you want to make sure you get good prices on the beach. You want to get good prices on the features, preferably free, you know, so the better your A&Rs and the more relationships they have, the more they can help you, but they got to have like a special love geared towards you, or they're not going to want to use their personal favors. You know, it's like, maybe I'll save it for something else. Or like, you don't want to be with somebody like that. You want to be with somebody that wants to do whatever they could do for you to make it happen and you get to your goal. Which is a hit record.
Definitely. That's really what I love about what you were saying too.
You know, and
you have a lot of dreamers in there, and you're actually the planning and the strategy with it. You're turning the dream into a tangible goal so we can actually execute it. Something that I really love what you said too was taking the artist's vision, taking that to the next level. Like, you know, for it not to be really there. And nobody's perfect, you know. And I noticed you did an interview in the past where you said you strive in the imperfections. You look for the imperfections so you can add some to it, take it to the different level. So with that being said, when you are looking for an artist, what are some of the things that you're looking for? Like, what stands out to you?
I was about to ask her.
Okay.
No, you're
In my mind, I have a little checklist, you know, like of things that I'm looking for. And of course, like number one on my list is talent. You know, if you're a singer, like, can you really sing? Can you hold a note? Like, I'm not saying you have to be like Jennifer Hudson, but I want to make sure that you could hold a note, you know. Talent is usually first, because usually if you're talented, everything else can follow. We can help fix it. But sometimes there are situations where like a person may have other things on the checklist and the talent is not there, but it could be a lucrative situation. So we'll go in and we'll help those people. Like, maybe you can't write a song, but you can sing. So maybe we'll have somebody write a song for you, and then we'll have you sing it, and then, you know, we can do the process. So it just depends, but talent is first, you know what I mean? Also, like, personality matters a lot. You know, I want to be able to have good energy with you. I want to work with somebody that, like, for example, I'll give you one artist I have. Her name is Bia. And, you know, even though Bia had a song with Russ and it went #1, you know, now she's signed to Epic. I signed her there. And every time she goes to the radio station or meets with people in the label, they call me and they say, yo, this girl is amazing. She has an amazing attitude. She did everything. She went everywhere. Everybody loved her. She came early. She left late. You know what I mean? And it just feels so good knowing that people, like, she's working so hard, you know what I mean? Because sometimes I get calls that aren't that good. Like, yo, this person was late. This person was lazy. This person had a bad attitude. Like, the DJs didn't like them. Like, you know, sometimes it could just be so much negative just off somebody's personality, and it turns people off. So personality is really important too. You know, I look at that. And, you know, like, the look. I'm not saying you have to have like a glamorous look, but you got to have a look. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you have to be a beauty queen, but there needs to be, I feel like, something special about you, you know what I mean, that you're showing the people immediately, you know what I mean? Because a lot of times you don't hear people, you see them before you hear them. So the look should also be like, you know, I'm not like, I just like things to look clean, you know what I mean? Like I'm into, but the look is important too. Another thing I look for is like, you know, dedication. Like, how dedicated are you to this? You know what I mean? Like, I've had people like literally, you know, like, studio time is something that's very expensive. So sometimes if you meet an artist, sometimes we'll bring them to the studio, and like initially I'll see like what time they're on. Do you get in the studio and like you hanging out, you smoking blunts, are you recording right away? Both, you know what I mean? And for me, I don't like to sign people unless I hang out with them in the studio and see their recording process. Like, your recording process could like either really turn me on or like really turn me off. For example, when I met Stunner Girl, I loved her songs. I thought she was great. You know, I loved her look. And then she went in the booth. And when she went in the booth, that's when I was like, oh my God, this girl is crazy. Like, her ad libs, you know what I mean? Like, her energy, how she played with her voice, like, she just in the booth. Like, after that, I was like, oh, no. Like, this, I'm so, like, I have to have this girl. She's a superstar. But when she went in the booth, how she turned it on, that's what really made me, like, go super, super hard. I went back to the office like, cut the check now and give her whatever she wants.
Definitely. I love that. So that's a major key. So talent being #1 for all you artists trying to get around it. Talent #1, help you stand out. But as you see, there's other keys behind it. So even for the artists that are just talented, just lean in on your talent, listen to the different levels of what they're saying, what they're looking for, and the reason why, and apply that to what you're doing if you want to get to the next level, you know?
Yeah. I just wanted to ask you, because you kind of talked about it with like the studio sessions. Have you ever had like an unproductive like studio session?
It happens. It happens.
Tell us about that.
I actually wrote like 20 different ebooks, and they're all different topics. I haven't put them out yet. They're like, what is an A&R? How to be an A&R? How to get your song played? But my favorite one is about studio etiquette. I wrote that one being upset because, you know, people sometimes they just don't know. Like, they just don't have studio etiquette.
Yes.
And it's because they don't know. And the more expensive the studio is, the more etiquette you need. And usually the higher up the artist is, the more etiquette you need. You know, people get really sensitive about their music. They get really private, get really protective. You know what I mean? Some of these songs are like worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. And, you know, who you bring in the room can really affect the room. So I wrote the studio etiquette one, and I wrote it from the perspective of like every single person I could think about that would be in the room. So it's like from the manager to the artist, to the assistant, to the girlfriend, to the homeboy, to the chef, to the second assistant, to the like every single person you can think of in the room that like does something dumb. I wrote, like, you know, I even had a situation the other day. I was in a studio session and I was recording with a top artist, and some other people came by. So I was like, cool, the artist is in the booth. Like we can hang out in the studio and like talk for a second. And, you know, by the time I turned around, I was talking to one person. I turned around and like they had brought in like all this liquor and like 3 extra people. And I'm literally here and I turn around and it's just like, wait. So I was like, yo, who you with? They was like, oh, with so-and-so. I was like, but did you like ask if you could bring all this into the session? Like, you don't even know whose session this is. So the person ended up catching a nasty attitude with me and was like, oh, I don't care, I could leave. I said, you could leave because you wasn't invited, number one. I said, number two, +1. And a part of studio etiquette is do not bring your +1. If you have a +1, clear your +1. Let the person that's coming know, I got somebody else with me, because the studio, it gets crazy. Like it's almost like it could turn into a party really fast. It could turn out to a hangout spot really fast. It could either be really productive or very unproductive. And at the same time, the studio is very expensive. So it's like, you're going to pay $2,500 for the studio for 12 hours to hang out. That's stupid. Like you need to be in the studio. So for me, like I always try to find that fine line, because, you know, you want vibes in the studio. You want energy. Like I don't mind the drinks. I don't mind the girls. I don't mind the smoking. I don't mind the hanging out, as long as like we're continuing to be productive. You know what I mean? And also respectful. Like I can't have you as an A&R, like someone's paying $2,000 for their day and you just can't, they don't know you. They're in the booth. Like I'm not going to have my artist walk out and I don't even know you. So I can't even be like, yo, I know them. They're cool. I don't know you. So I had to really hang on them. I didn't want to, but it was like, after you gave me an attitude, I'm like, well, you can step up because you wasn't even invited. Like, this is a real session. Like, people are paying a lot of money to come in here. Like, check your energy at the door. And like, when it's your session, you do what you want, but it's not your session. So what you're going to do is you're going to leave. So it's just like, you know, and I don't like being like that, but like sometimes you got to really put your foot down. And like, you know, anything that happens in the studio when I book it and it's not good falls on me, falls on the A&R. The person, me, Zoe, that called and emailed and was like, hey, can I book this studio from this day to this time paying this much money? You know what I mean? It's a lot of liability. You know what I mean? It's liability with my relationship with the studio. It's liability when they called and they sent a bill back for $20,000 because somebody spent liquor, which has happened, spelled liquor on the board. And now I got the company calling me like, Zoe, you were there, what happened? And I got to be like, yeah, I was there, but it got out of control. And like, no, that sounds crazy. Like, that's not, that's not what I want. That's not what I want. I don't want people to call me and tell me, hey, yo, the song you made last night was amazing. Like, let's get back. Like, those are the type of calls I want. I don't want the call like, yo, your session was crazy. The studio's complaining. We got a bill. I don't need that. Like, we here to get money, not lose money. And you could lose money by playing around.
For real. What you said is so real. And doing music, like I see that so many occasions. Like you'll agree to go to the studio with someone, and then magically it's like 5-10 different people. So please get out of that habit. Can't explain enough.
That's why I asked that question, because
like, yo, I have somebody with me. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times, like, I'm a really nice person, but sometimes artists aren't so nice, and sometimes producers aren't so nice, and sometimes managers aren't so nice. So before you come into somebody's session doing something that's a little inappropriate, like, save yourself the embarrassment. You know what I mean? And just move accordingly. I'm gonna put that ebook out. People could know.
For real, I'm waiting on that ebook. For real.
I need to see that.
Bring like food in the studio, and like, okay, if it's the artist, cool.
If you ever
like,
need to film for your ebook.
Same thing happened to me the other day. I go in the studio, And there's like plates and plates and plates of food, and there's fish, and it stinks. So I'm in the studio, and like everybody's just hanging out. Everybody just ate and left their food. So I'm like, first of all, it's really no eating in here. You're already eating here. It's cool. It's not a big deal. Is this your session? No. So why would you leave all this stink fish in here? Like, no, take your food, throw it in the garbage, and I had to literally stop the session for a few minutes, have somebody come in, clean the room, freshen it down, because it's like, it's not your session. This is expensive. Like, why would you come in here and just leave your food and it stinks? So, you know, the artist was there and he was like, yo, she's right. Like, why would you guys come in here and just like, I don't like how it smells right now. Like, it's killing my vibe. So, you know, a lot of times I always protect my artists, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes you got to protect them from the people that surround them. But a lot of times people don't do things intentionally. They just don't know better. So it's just all about educating people. So, you know, I kind of just was like, yo, if you guys want to eat, don't eat in here unless it's your everybody else eat outside. If you're going to push on something, just clean up after, you know, because that's not, I got producers coming. I got other artists coming. It's like, and the studio is a very small, enclosed, soundproof room. So it's just like any smells linger. They stay there for a while. So it's just all food in the studio. Especially like, it's just, there's like you affect everybody in the room. You know what I mean? It's not a party. So, you know, you got to monitor your session. You got to make sure it's a hit record. You just got to make sure your artist energy is good. And I've been in sessions where something happened with somebody the artist brought and it killed their whole vibe. And like, now they don't want to record, or you could tell like their energy is not there. So, you know, whatever I could do to preserve my artist energy and just make sure they have the best recording session and the best experience. Like, I'm there for it. I want to have fun too. Like, I'm going to have fun, but just like, let's be productive and let's make it make sense.
Yes. Oh, that makes 100% sense, especially like studio etiquette, because I know a lot of people don't know, but like that's common sense. Just try to think about that. Like, if you got trash, throw it away. And honestly, to people that aren't creating music, the studio is not as fun as you think. If you're not creating the music, you're gonna be there for hours, and you're probably going to do something crazy in the background because you're bored. So just keep that in mind. We actually had another question, because speaking of, okay, so artists coming up. Now, you have your music ready in the studio. What are important team members you should have? Because sometimes people, what I notice a lot of artists they'll see an artist on TV and think it's like a one-person team, like they did that by themselves, especially if they're not in a group. It's a lot
like,
with it.
You mean like a team of an artist?
Mm-hmm. So even just like unsigned, what they should have to get them to that sign level, like what should they be looking for to build their team?
Well, a manager is always good. You know what I'm saying? Somebody to like lead the pack. A publicist is important. You know what I mean? If you're doing shows, you need a road manager. You know, you also want to have somebody that's like a digital person. So if you could figure out somebody that's a friend or hire somebody, digital marketing is really, really, really important. You know, you want to just find different people to like really like, you know, you have your core team and then you have just like people to help you. And your core team is important, but there's got to get other people to help you too. So, but I feel like, you know, a good manager is key. A good manager will like bring people around you and like bring people around you that can help you. Everybody has like a weakness. So whatever your weakness is, that's going to determine what you need or who you need around you. You know, like if, you know, it just depends. Everybody's different.
Definitely. Oh, that's some great advice. Actually, and you know what, something that I didn't really expect to hear too, that was just a major key for me, is like, look at what your weakness is. So instead of thinking in general, this is what everyone has, look at your individual situation and really take care of those weaknesses. Definitely.
You stated that you've been you've been in the music scene for 13 years. So I wanted to ask you a question in terms of like networking, right? I wanted to like get your feedback, like what's good networking and what's like bad networking?
Etiquette, all that, yeah.
Like etiquette. Yeah.
I just feel like bad networking is just not being just being unproductive. Like good networking is going out and finding like-minded people that are doing what you're doing or doing what you're trying to do or doing what you're going to get into. And like that, like people be networking in like areas that have nothing to do with them. You know what I mean? If you're a producer, you should network with other producers, or like if you're an artist, like find other artists, find producers, find engineers, like find video directors, like network with people that you need something from. That's what you should do. Network with people that you need to like figure out like what's going on over there a little bit more. Like whatever you need help with, those are the type of people I feel like you should be networking in. Like whatever you're trying to get into, like those are the people you need to get next to.
Definitely. And you know, and networking and building relationships are important. And just to kind of talk, you know, touch on the networking and the team building. So is that again?
Cut out. Can you say it one more time?
Oh, yeah. So as far as just kind of building off the networking and the team building, right? Mm-hmm. So my question would be, if you're an artist, right? Let me articulate this correctly. So a lot of, like, some people, because in this industry, it's not easy. Sometimes there's a lot of scams this way, you turn this way, and it gets hard to even trust, right? So sometimes people will get to a certain success level by themselves and think they don't need a team. I just want them to hear from you the importance, if they really want to get to that top level, that A-list level, why it's important to have a team, not harden your heart from having a team.
I've never heard of anybody being truly successful without a team.
Yes.
So if you're out there and you got a strategy, let me know. But I never heard of anybody being truly successful without a team. There's too much to do. There's too much ground to cover. There's too much information. You know, like especially for a growing artist, or especially as an established artist. Like, for example, you could be a new artist and let's say you get lucky and you may not have any songs out, but you have great content. You luck up with getting with an A&R, somebody at the label. They're like, hey, we'll give you a small deal. Let's see what we could do. Like, there's so much correspondence. Like, there's so much correspondence. And I tell people, like, yeah, I'm your A&R. You know what I mean? I meet you first. We hang out first, we record first, and then once we're done getting a bunch of really great music, I pass you on. So you don't call me every day for everything, and like, but I'm closest to you because we spend the most time together and you met me first, but I pass you on. So now you have the radio department. Now you have the marketing department. Now you have the digital department. Now you have the promotional department. And there's so many emails. Like, you could see 50 to 200 emails a day, depending on how busy you are. There's a touring department. So you don't, as an artist, you don't want to be responsible for like dealing with the business. You want to be responsible for the creative. You want to be responsible for the music. You want to be responsible for the work. You don't want to be responsible for scheduling. You don't want to be responsible for feeding yourself, really. You don't want to be responsible for travel. You don't want to, those aren't your areas of expertise. Your area of expertise is music. So work on the music and find great people around you that are experts in some of the other areas. Get a travel person, book your flights, because traveling, like, man, it could go left so quick. Yeah, find, you know, it's a lot. No. So you want to get a team. You want to find people that you trust. You want to find people, like, you got to think like this. If somebody's on your team, if I had to leave them to make a decision for me, would I be comfortable feeling like they made the best decision for me?
Yes.
All right. Like, I have an artist that I manage. He's 19 years old, and he's the only artist that I manage. I only A&R for the label, but he's the only like thing that I have for myself. His name is Space Swag. He's from Queens in New York. But, you know, I know for him, it's almost like, and especially because he's so young, it's almost like I'm his mom. It's like I literally have to do everything for this kid. Anything that he doesn't do, I have to make sure that I checked and I double checked and I grabbed it and I secured it and like everything is good. You know what I mean? I feel like he knows he can sleep good at night because there's somebody looking over everything, double checking everything, reading everything twice, confirming everything, checking everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Like checking the travel person, checking the marketing person, checking the digital person, checking the radio people. So your team is important. There's so many people in the team that you can need, but you know, in management could be one person, two people, could be a team, but find a team of people mostly that you trust, that are knowledgeable, and that have your best interest for you.
Yes, 100% facts.
Those are the type of people to put around you. Like, and maybe they might not be like qualified for music at first, but if they have a good business sense, like, you know, the music is something that you can learn and grow with quickly. You know, so you put good people around you, like they'll figure it out.
Definitely.
People
even having
And when you get to a point where like you don't know something, you find somebody that knows. Ask somebody that knows. Get next to somebody that knows. Network with somebody that you know knows, and help them have you figure it out.
Definitely. And what you're saying is really inspirational. Your success in itself is inspiration to all people, but even to like the female specifically, you know. And I have a lot of females in my family. I grew up with a lot, so I love them to death. So I really just being in the industry as a female, has that made it harder, and what obstacles had you had to overcome?
I feel like being a female, it doesn't make it harder,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a little bit more challenging because there are not so many of us. So normally when I go into a studio session, it's 98% male dominated, you know, just anything. Like most of the music industry is male dominated, but I feel like as a girl, I got to use that to my advantage. You know what I mean? Like I have like, you know, I would like to say gangster rappers that I A&R. And I feel like, you know, even though there's always all guys around him, I'm usually the only girl most of the time. Even though I'm a girl, you know what I mean? I try to use it to my advantage. Mm-hmm. So for example, sometimes as a girl, saying something or coming from a girl, like it's just all about the way you talk to people. Like it's all about the way you communicate. So I feel like for me, using a girl, like I use my softness, you know what I mean, and reasonability, and you know, to try to like tap in with them a little bit more, you know what I mean? Like, hey, you should try this, you shouldn't try this, or like, especially with the look, like, hey, I think this looks great, or this doesn't great, or like, you should try this over this. But I feel like being a girl, like it just comes off differently with guys, you know what I mean? With like giving them opinions and like telling them you don't like something. So I just try to use it as a plus, you know what I mean? Like being a woman is a great thing. And I'm sure like, you know, it comes in handy all the time. There are like all types of things that I know about that most of the guys don't know about. Or like even with the, it's just, you know, you got to use it to your advantage. But I feel like, you know, for the most part, like everyone's really appreciative of a female presence. You know, every so often you have somebody that's, you know, condescending or rude or like, you know, doesn't understand your role or who you are, or that you actually set this whole thing up and paid for it. But that's okay. You know, sometimes you got to let people be people, but hold your ground, stand your ground. Like, you know, somebody says something to you that you don't like, you should address it. You know, I'm not saying address it in front of the whole room. Maybe you should step to the side and address it, but you just really got to stand up for yourself, you know, and really boss up. And really let people know, like, I didn't like what you said, or I didn't like what you did. Or, you know, maybe sometimes you got to let other people know, like, you know, sometimes it takes people around you to like embrace you as a woman. Like all the men that I work for, they embrace me so much. Like you could never come around and like do something or say something disrespectful to me and it wouldn't cause a huge problem. Like literally, you know, like Black Youngster is one of my artists and he's for sure a gangster rapper. You know, he's with at any moment. And literally I'd be in the room with him with like 60 people is way too many people to be in the studio, but literally like 60 people and it's all guys and like everyone's very respectful. And like sometimes, you know, if I come in or like I don't know most of the people, he'll say, hey, this is Zoe, this is my A&R, she's working with me, so like let her be, give her her room, stay out her way, like be respectful, you know what I mean? I also work with French Montana maybe for like almost 10 years. And like French is like an advocate of women and has also hired a lot of women. But, you know, if there's ever been a time where like I felt disrespected or whatever the case was, like, and he's seen it, he's nipped it in the bud. Hey, don't speak to her like that. Or, hey, you didn't acknowledge her, but this is who this is and this is what her role is. So you should acknowledge her like you acknowledge anyone else. So, you know, you got to put your foot down. You might have to snap a few times or like, you know, let people know. But a lot of times people say like, I'm a little aggressive or I'm a little mean, but I'm really not. I tend to be very stern because, you know, like, I'm just not here to play. Like, don't play with me. I'm gonna play with you. Like, let's be serious. You know, I'm not with that. Certainly are.
I love that. I can feel that energy. Like, you definitely have like a good, humble energy, but you have this like no nonsense, like, I'm not gonna play no games.
Yeah, I just feel like, you know, I've been through so much that like when people know, like, see you're serious from off top, like they're less likely to like play with you. So.
It's definitely. What would you say? Because you've had many successes. What success are you most proud of in your career thus far?
Wow, that's a good one. I mean, honestly, like every time I hear one of my artist songs on the radio, it's a win to me. You know what I'm saying? It's a win to me. Like every time the music comes out, it's a win to me. but you know, accolades are good. So, you know, when your song goes 7 times platinum, it feels good. Like French's song "Unforgettable." I think we're 8 platinum right now. You know, that's a huge win. That's a huge bonus too.
Yeah.
So,
definitely.
So, worked with for like almost 10 years now, and literally started from like the very, very, very bottom with him. Like he was one of the first people to like really believe in me. And like I've always worked with great people in like great situations, but when I met French, you know, he was on the rise and like we were cool, and I was like, yo, French, you should do this, or like you should do that, or like let's try this. And he was like, yo, Zoe, do it, set it up, let's go. I'm gonna meet them. I'm gonna work with this person. I'm gonna come up. Like he was rocking with me. Like whatever idea I had, he was like, trust me, I feel like you know what's up. Like let's go. So, you know, I'm just like that was like something that started out really small and then turned out really big. So I'm probably most proud of like everything I've accomplished with French. And we still going strong.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like a new project on the way, you know, like a documentary. We went to Africa, we built houses, we saved people. Like it's been an incredible journey with him.
And I love how y'all did that video in Africa too with the kids. I feel like, because the song was already great, but how y'all just took it to the next level with that.
Yeah, French went to Africa. We went like 3 hours in like some deep place, and like there was only one hospital, and the hospital literally was like for 250,000 people, and they had one ambulance for like a crazy range. So like if something happened to 2 people at one time, like you almost had to pick. So when we went with French, he did a bunch of amazing things. He built a hospital for like hundreds of people and like an ambulance, and like literally spent so much money there. But you had to. It was so bad there, but everything is like, it worked out. So shout out to French for doing all that great stuff.
Definitely. Man, we want to shout out to you for even taking the time to bless us and our listeners with major keys of success. I mean, literally, if we play this bag and apply what you're saying, we can execute and take it to the next level. Not even just music. Like you gave keys that literally can go into any field of what anybody's working in, you know? So I just, you know, we wish you continued success. We are looking for that ebook. We hope to have you back on when that ebook drops.
Yes,
you know, we'll see some visuals too for the etiquette, the studio etiquette.
Read that one, you're gonna be like, man, I did this.
I relate to this. Definitely. Let them know your hashtag and where they can follow you on social media. Check out what you have going.
My Instagram is MsZoe, MsZoe. You can also find me on Instagram at WhenZoeYourA&R. You can go to my website, WhenZoeYourA&R.com. And I'm on Twitter too, Zoe Alicia. So, you know, I often, like, people don't think, like, I literally, I look at everything. I see everything. I check everything. I don't leave any stone unturned. So, like, people, like, I don't know, I have to write people back, or I have to, like, at least check it out. Like, even if it's not that good, I'm like, maybe I won't say anything, but I looked, you know? So, like, look for me, check me out. If you see me in the streets, talk to me, you know what I mean? Send me a DM, leave me a comment. I'll check you out. I'm with it. I leave no stone unturned when it comes to me. And I've seen so many people, like, come, so many people go, people who thought weren't gonna make it, people who made it. It's just like, this game, like, anybody can win. Sometimes persistency and consistency will win over talent.
Yes.
Keep that in mind.
Just drop some keys. That's some super major keys.
The name of the episode.
Yo, persistency. I like that. We're gonna be out in LA soon, so we hope to catch up with you real soon. Definitely. You are amazing. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Love First Podcast. Have a great night.
Yeah. We gotta show love first like our podcast. Put the work in, trying to make it last. Seen enough deaths, I don't need no more. It's like our nation trying to start a civil war. We gotta show love first like our podcast. Put the work in, trying to make it last. Seen enough deaths, I don't need no more. It's like our nation trying to start a civil war.
Black, Latin, Indian, Asian, and white. Whole lives matter, but let's get it right. There's a specific group of people needing help right now. All lives matter, yeah, no, calm down. So can we get together, stop the hurting right now? It's getting too political now. If you had enough of it, then stop with the blackouts and the non-support, and push focuses on businesses we should support. Shouldn't have to force to get together like community. Only get together the eulogies. We killing ourselves, fatality. Ain't no actuality. We killing ourselves more than police. come together as a
We
people.
gotta show love first like our